after that we can find like what is the importance of a perfect living master, a perfect living realized guru, so that they can guide us that this is not a right direction, this is not a right sadhana, you have to do this type of sadhana, you have to behave this because we are in the body, where we have the mind, we have the senses, no? You told me that reality is beyond that, but we are in this body, in this mind. So how to go beyond that, how to reach level that still people are doing, most of the people are doing sadhanas, but they couldn't realize that self.
Someone said that we're human doings, we're not human beings, but we are a human being, and the doing part is what gets in the way. And that's where the Zen koan, what happens before enlightenment? Chopping wood, carrying water. What happens after enlightenment? Chopping wood, carrying water. but the way you experience chopping wood and carrying water is totally different. That was passing energy.
Passing energy, okay.
Yeah. So whether it was by physical touch, a look, he could look you in the eyes and it would just like open something in your mind. And so everything was used as a vehicle to open people. Karma yoga is different to karma. So karma yoga is being involved in activity, but remembering who you are that's doing the activity. Whereas karma, the whole idea that there's good and bad karma from the past that lead you down different directions.
So it's spiritual journey is a typical individual journey?
I think so, yeah.
10 persons are actively in this karma yoga, or they just enlightened, oh, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm the pure consciousness, I'm the oneness, and they just skip from their work and just be passive. What do you think?
But science has been bought. The UN, last from the UN said, we own the science. But they own the science that they want to promote. And their science promotes lies. They do not promote truth. They do not use science for truth.
दिव्यपुरी आध्यात्मिक केन्द्रबाट सञ्चालित युट्युब मार्फत प्रसारण भइरहेको दिव्यपुरी टिभीमा यहाँहरूलाई स्वागत छ।
नमस्कार, यो दिव्यपुरी टिभीमा आध्यात्मिक भलाकुसारीको क्रममा आज हामी एकजना विदेशी साधकसँग सत्संग गर्न जाँदैछौँ। हुन त उहाँको अनुभव र अनुभूति यो सनातन सभ्यता, सनातन धर्मका एकजना सिद्ध हस्त हैडाखान बाबा, जसलाई महाअवतार बाबाको एउटा हामीले महाअवतार बाबा के उहाँलाई चाहिँ अंश मानिन्छ। हैडाखान बाबासँग सान्निध्यता पाउनु भएको एकजना साधक हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँ हुनुहुन्छ डाक्टर डैरेक रेनी। Dr. Darag, Rennie, welcome to our program. Welcome to Dibyapuri TV. It's a spiritual program. Welcome.
Thank you. Dhanyavad.
How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. That's about the only word I know the meaning of, apart from the arti.
For Nepalese and for all the people, all around people who are watching Dibyapuri TV, can you please give your little bit introduction?
I'm not sure what kind of introduction you want, but I originally qualified as a medical doctor in 1978 before deciding spirituality was a better path for me. And part of that path involved visiting Babaji in 1982 in Haidakhan. And he still remains to me the most amazing being I've met in my entire life. and he role modeled a lot of what it is to be human in a way that we don't really understand. And so life has really been about deepening that relationship to the spirit that we all know we're a part of.
So
And
tell me a little bit about how did you meet Babaji? Actually, how was your previous life? What's the connection with Babaji? Actually, you are living in New Zealand and Babaji is in India. So what is this connection? Is this a real miracle, or what's this?
well, I remember when I was, I think I was 16 or 17, and I was breaking up from my first romantic relationship. And a friend of mine gave me Autobiography of a Yogi. And I read that book and touched me really deeply. And over the next 6 years, after I had my relationships at that time tended to last about 18 months. And I wonder if that had something to do with the fact that my dad left us, my mum and I, when I was about 18 months old. And that whole thing about how when you separate from a relationship, how much that really reflects and touches that part of you that feels separate or where you separated from God. So anyway, every time I had a breakup in a relationship, I would return to that book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And so it fed my soul on many levels. And then I remember there was a part of me was really becoming quite distressed about being in medicine and thinking this isn't what I wanted to do. But I didn't really have a clear idea of what else I could do. And so I remember sitting praying in the time for some help. And then I got a phone call very shortly after that by a friend of mine whose name is Kirananka. He has Indian heritage. His family were Indian. And about brought up in New Zealand. And he'd dropped out of medicine a year before me. And he introduced me to the idea of rebirthing, Leonard Orr, and gave me the article by what was it, Urmila Dionef, The Legend of Haidakhan Baba, that appeared in the Yoga Journal in the US. And so it was for me like that was all I needed to give me a sense that was showing me a path ahead. So I actually went in and I read Rebirthing in the New Age, and I went in and resigned from medicine the next day. It was quite fast. And it was partly that whole idea of Babaji at that point was talking about the world was going to end. Well, there was going to be a Mahakranti, and there was going to be major diseases, and the population was going to be reduced by the 1990s. And so I just fell into that. And I think part of me, if you look at the idea of human motivation, we're either motivated by pleasure or by pain, and we'll do anything to avoid pain and things to gain pleasure. But we'll tend to be motivated more to avoid pain than we will to get pleasure. And so the pain part for me about medicine was I was terrified of hurting people. And the more I got into medicine, the more I could see the possibility of doing that. Whereas the spiritual life was just really opening up for me, a lot of meditation. I was living in a yoga center at the time, the Lotus Yoga Center in Wellington, run by Eric Dornekamp. And so it just felt like I was, the pain and the pleasure were working together to drive me in that direction. So, and then I left medicine, and a few years later I met a lass soon after, and we got married, and then we moved together to visit Babaji in '82. So, but that's how the story evolved for me.
Please kindly share your that experience, that encounter with Babaji, first encounter with Babaji, how was your trip, and how, yeah, that first encounter with, yeah, you perfectly surrendered to Babaji. What's that feeling? Can you please explain that?
Well, I remember when we were in Haldwani, I tell the story in my book, and in Haldwani we bought a little cushion because you need to bring gifts, right? So we bought a little cushion. It was a magenta color, maybe purplish, but with little mirrors with gold embroidery around them, and so we got off the bus at the dam site and walked up the riverbed. It was March, so it was, summer season, a dry riverbed, and walked up, and then we got shown our room where we were going to stay, and it was late afternoon, and he was coming into the garden around the main temple there for just the afternoon, and I remember, we were told he was there, so we went to see him with our little gift, and he was sitting on the low, platform. There's pillars there with a little low bench. So we were sitting right there with people gathered all around him, laughter and joy kind of bouncing out of the atmosphere, and so we sat down and. It was close by. There's only like 10, 15 people around him. And he was wearing a waistcoat made of the same material of the cushion that we were going to give him. And, otherwise, he was in white. And so it came our turn to, come up to him and give him his cushion. I always remember he looked into he pulled it and looked into the little mirrors and looked in and said, "I can see me." And he just really lightened it, because it's quite a moment when you first meet him. And so for him to really take that time to actually just lighten the mood and make it funny, and just really relaxed us both. It was just, but it's something I'll always remember.
What is the first word, though? What did he say? Do you remember?
Well, that was it. That mirror thing was it. I didn't have a lot of conversations with Babaji direct, but I had a few. And I think the thing that surprised me most was that I was expecting a guru to be full of peace, love, and light. And so they call it Haidakhan theater. You probably know that piece. Did you meet him? Did you spend time with him?
No, I haven't.
Oh, right, yeah. So you've probably heard all the stories that he could be any emotion in the world, and he could change in an instant. He'd be looking at you, and he'd turn to me, and he would be a completely different person. So it's like it was an emotional. Relating to Babaji was an emotional journey more than anything, because he was full on emotion, whether that was fury. I never saw a lot of sadness, although people did see sadness when they were watching Babaji. But for me, it was either fury or joy, fury or love, and angst. So there was just a lot of learning around the emotion and how he treated people, and it was that was the primary kind of learning and Haidakhan with Babaji was learning to be with him emotionally.
How long you stayed with Babaji?
That was about 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah. Can't remember whether it was 2 or 3. I think 2.
2 months.
Yeah.
So in 2 months, what did you do in that ashram? What he wants to do from you? Actually, you realize, what really he wants to do. As you were sitting in India and you were from New Zealand, you went there and spent 2 months time with him. So what you realize about it?
Well, what you do in the ashram at that time was karma yoga. So everything was work. So he didn't like people sitting around chatting. So you went to work and you worked, or you chanted. Arti was twice a day, rested in the afternoon, and then there was darshan. So I'm not quite sure if I get your question. So is there another way you can ask what you were thinking?
No, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. About your realization, about your spiritual transformation. I'm asking about your spiritual transformation after meeting with Babaji. What you have transformed, what you have realized.
If I was ever in any doubt about Creator God or a Supreme Being or something beyond mind and body, I was never in doubt again. And just the experience of, I call it love, peace, and joy. Partly that's I get that from the Course in Miracles, where if you define the fundamental nature of beingness or life, the being beyond life, I don't see our mind as being where we live. We live beyond that. You know, we have a body and we have a mind, but we are beyond that. And that being has certain qualities that resonate. So, and it's when I know when I'm in the presence or I'm experiencing that presence within myself. That's what I feel. But I can also feel every emotion under the sun, and it's about not letting that emotion stop me from also feeling that connection. Because I think a lot of people, they get afraid. They see a quote unquote negative emotion, and they forget that's part of God working through you. And it's about you learning to translate that. And that's what I saw with Babaji in action, was that he was full on emotion. There was no apathy in his being. There was no emotional deadness. He was alive fully with feeling. And you felt that.
So in that period, actually, I saw in the video also, most of the foreign people came to Babaji, and they do have lots of experience. Right now, also we can see in the YouTube videos also. No, most of the people are they're sharing their experiences. So in that period, from which country came to Haidakhan Ashram? You have any experience about that? Because I saw in the video also there are lots of the foreign people were around with Babaji.
Acha. Well, there was lots of Italians. They tended to wear black, and Babaji had a fun time with them, but I couldn't understand a lot of it. And Americans, Germans, and people from all walks of life. You know, doctors, nurses, regular people. And I remember one of the stories I tell in my book is a lady called Bea. She was from Germany, and he used to whack her with a stick. You know, he had this big staff that was about that round and taller than him. And he's taller than me. I'm only like 5'5.5". He must have been about 5'8". It was a big staff, and he would whack her in the middle of the back. And he'd yell at her at the same time, and he would sound furious. And then she would just burst out laughing, and you could hear the thump on her back from the stick 100 meters away, because we were down, say, in the company garden, that piece down below, and he would whack her on the back, and she would just burst out laughing. And so one day we asked her, well, why do you think he beat you like that? And she said, I always remember it. She said, well, my dad used to beat up my little sister, and I always used to wish he'd beat me instead. And he was Babaji playing that out with her. And so we said, well, gosh, well, what happens when he beats you? How come you just burst out laughing? And she says, like a burst of joy just explodes out of my heart. it's like, wow. And she got through that. So that whole thing that she got with her dad, she got through with that experience with Babaji doing that. And so he did stop whacking her at one point. And it's just that whole thing. It's a deep experience to unravel things in your consciousness that are keeping you stuck. Yeah.
So, in your experience, what's the eligibility to meet with Babas? Because most of the people didn't meet Babaji. Right now, we are exploring Babaji, who is Babaji, who is Babaji. We are exploring in YouTube and videos, and like you have made, we are studying the books, no? But what's the eligibility? That you are also eligible to meet with Babaji, no?
So.
But what's that your past birth or any connection? Did you have any experience that? How did?
Nothing conscious, no.
Okay.
Nothing conscious. Eligibility, I can only say that if you had some kind of sense that there was something beyond the life that we see, and you're honestly searching to answer that for yourself, I think that's enough. I don't think there was any graduation, like there's no. No, I think just a desire to come to terms with life and meet. You had to want to meet a being like that. It's like meeting, the love of your life, so wife or husband. You have to be willing to meet them.
So it's like a hunger of that, to search to know about truth or God or what is reality. We have to be hunger, thirsty.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way to put it, Rajan. It's a good way to put it, and because without that, there's no way to connect. There's no meeting point. And he used to say, treat me like a fire. Get too close and you'll get burnt. Stay too far away and you'll get too cold. So it's about, there's a way to revolve around that energy like the sun. Find that right place, like revolving around the sun. So you can blossom just like the world blossoms. It's in the right spot to blossom.
So what's the role of that enlightened spiritual master? No, is the master just what are their roles? Because we do have different masters, that Yogananda, Yukteswar Giri, Lahiri Maharshi, Paramahamsa Yogananda, no, Mahaavatar Babaji, Haidakhan Babaji. What they want to do from people or world or around this whole world, what they want to transfer or change, or they want to trigger that we are not this body, this mind, beyond this. They just want to remind us for that only.
I can only guess. Once you and I get to that level of consciousness ourselves, then we'll know. But until then, we can only guess. And what do I think? I think they want to invite people to the party. They want more from us, and they want us to experience ourselves more, to come to that same realization that they're in and that place they live from. That's the only thing I can see, is that's the purpose of life, and I call it I call it liberate, life and balance, expanding, radiating, and touching everyone. I formed that acronym out of liberate, and it's about liberating ourselves so that we will be that light to ourselves and other people. And I don't see that they're doing anything different to that. I think that's the journey we're all on, returning to that oneness. And they're just a light, a beacon on the path, and a guide on the way.
Mhm. So how to realize that oneness, no? Because you had met with such a great master, Haidakhan Babaji. We just see his videos, his lessons. We feel, oh, but you have met with some master with 2 months, 3 months, no? That how to reach that oneness, that we are not body, we are not mind, we are not this consciousness, that oneness feelings, how to realize that we do sadhak as different, do japa, dhyan, we like to do Om Namah Shivaya, Jai Sri Ram, Om Namah Shivaya, but still people are not connected with that divinity, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he did say that it's not about repeating the mantra mindlessly. It's not about just saying the words. It's about using the mantra to, like I say the idea of the thing is to get out of your mind. Because it's when we're caught in our mind that we think we're all sorts of limited things. But when you get out of your mind, slip through that space between your thoughts, then you experience that beingness. And then it's just a matter of realizing that's actually a real experience. That's not just your imagination. And then once you can allow it and acknowledge it as a real experience, then that just grows naturally. And there's nothing you can need to do other than remind yourself to get out of your mind so that you can experience that. And I think they talk about the darshan of a guru, the idea that their energy, their being, the way that they're being and the beingness they're connected to, you feel that. And that's, I guess, a bit like his fire analogy, find the right distance, find the space. And it is a felt experience. It's not a visualized experience in my experience anyway.
So how to get out of mind to know that truth, that reality, so that we will be free from our bondage. We can just be like a instrument. We can this feel and transfer all the love, selfless service around the world. How can we do that?
Well, first of all, it's realizing what it feels like to be in your mind. So it's about appreciating your thoughts and being willing to let your judgment or good or bad judgment on the thoughts go. So it's not being attached to the thoughts, but being willing to hold on. That whole idea of religion being religare, meaning to bind oneself again, to become close and hold. So it's about realizing your thoughts aren't it. And then your emotion isn't it either. There's something beyond all that. And so it's being willing to witness, I think. It's probably a good word, being willing to witness the experience of yourself thinking and feeling, and knowing that even as powerful as those feelings are, there's still something else beyond. So it's about not getting caught up in the drama, being willing to enter the drama and be part of it, but to realize there's also something beyond. And so it's a mental discipline in a way to really take that on, to put yourself in the witnessing state rather than being so attached to the thoughts that you think that that's what life is about.
So for those aspirant, for those seeker who really want to realize that truth, no, but they do lots of meditation, lots of sadhana, spiritual practice, still they feel blank. They are not fully satisfied with their sadhanas. So it's they have to encounter with such a master. They have to transmit that power within, or they have to just to have. I'm naked. I do not have anything. I don't have any. Just to pray, or how to reach that level.
I think it's to stop doing, because until you feel that presence inside yourself, and that presence doesn't happen by doing. That happens by not doing. It happens by, there's a Buddhist saying about meditation where you just let the thoughts pass through your mind like clouds in the sky. So as soon as you think you're doing something to get enlightened, you're just saying, well, I'm not enlightened as I am. And it's about realizing the enlightenment exists and within you, and all you need to do is get out of the mind enough to experience it. And that enlightenment comes from a sense of beingness in the body that it goes beyond thought. And for me, it happens easiest if I meditate. I just close my eyes and focus on my breath. Don't try and do anything with my breath, but just let it be. And if I keep sitting, letting the thoughts pass, letting the breath come and go, stay focused on the body, just use that as a focal point, relax where I feel tension. At a certain point, I'll drop beyond all feeling into a space, which is an expansive feeling of oneness with life. And that's available in any moment. So I don't need to, once you feel it, you don't need to do anything to do it. Although sitting in meditation in a comfortable pose can deepen the experience, it's still there for anyone in any moment. And to the extent you think you need to do something to get there, that's actually the problem. There's nothing we need to do, because the doingness is all about the mind. And the only reason I won't say the only reason, because there's a vibration to it. But the idea of a repetitive mantra like Om Namah Shivaya is to actually help you focus the mind rather than let it run loose within your thought system. So it helps you focus enough to then let go.
Oh. So after that, we can find like what is the importance of a perfect living master or perfect living realized guru, so that they can guide us that this is not a right direction, this is not a right sadhana, you have to do this type of sadhana, you have to behave this because we are in the body, where we have the mind, we have the senses, no? You told me that reality is beyond that, but we are in this body, in this mind. So how to go beyond that, how to reach level that still people are doing, most of the people are doing sadhanas, but they couldn't realize that self.
Say that last bit again, Rajan.
Most of the people are doing sadhanas, but what their ego problem or some hallucination or mind problem, they couldn't be realize that truth or self or being. Who am I?
Yeah, because if you think you have to do something to become that, the only reason you think you have to do something to become that is you've forgotten that you already are that. And that's what we need to understand, is we are that. And there's nothing we have to do to get it. We can't become more holy.
We are already realized.
We are
already realized.
Well, realize we are that oneness ourselves, and that's within. There's nothing we have to do to gain it. It was already given. So what we have to just appreciate is it's there. It's a deep relaxation into being. And there's it's
So
like an
emphasis. Mind is playing that role.
Yeah.
False role.
Yeah, someone once said it. We're human doings. We're not human beings, but we are a human being, and the doing part is what gets in the way. And that's where the Zen koan. What happens before enlightenment? Chopping wood, carrying water. What happens after enlightenment? Chopping wood, carrying water. But the way you experience chopping wood and carrying water is totally different. Because if you think you have to do something to become enlightened, you might think you have to chop and carry a lot of water, chop a lot of wood and carry a lot, or you might think that those things are stopping you. The fact that you have to do that is stopping you from focusing on your sadhana. So you forget that that's the beauty of what Babaji talked about karma yoga. Is about being and the action, focused on being who you are within, while at the same time taking action in the world. And Eckhart Tolle talks about mindful practice of even walking up the stairs, just being in your body, walking the stairs without actually thinking about anything else. And you drop into beingness when you focus on simple tasks.
But it's very tough now, but where in the family people, where the lots of, we are born in this society, no, we have to do this, we have to build this type of house where we do have lots of desires, lots of expectation, lots of, no, that's how to be that, you told that just easily, but it's still difficult.
Yeah. Well, that whole idea of desire, it's like, well, everyone has to figure out, well, is that my real desire? Or is it just what someone told me I should desire? And that's a very individual question. Because it's through our desire that we find our path ahead. So desire is a good thing. But is it, it's about, again, in terms of like thinking of it as getting out of your mind, I have to look at, well, is that desire for something because it's really from that being that wants that to happen? Or is that desire because I think I need to get that something to be happy? And if I think I need to get that something to be happy, then that's not going to work. Because happiness exists within me, and I have to do nothing to get it. But that's where a lot of human desire comes from, that thought that I'm a miserable son of a, whatever, and I need to, if I have this, I'll be happier. And that's a sad story that's waiting to happen. Because if you can't experience your present day happiness, then nothing you can do will bring it any more of it to you, because you've lost touch with it.
Babaji did give any initiation like Diksha, any transmission, power transmission, or any, about anything else? Haidakhan Babaji.
Yeah. Well, he did use touch, so he did touch, and you touch him, whether it's bowing and holding his feet, or excuse me, that's my notifications coming in. And there was one point we were gathered around the fire, because there's that story about, I think it's an autobiography of Yogi, where he healed someone with a red hot poker. And so we're all around his, where he had his little separate place. and there was a fire pit down there, down below the peepal tree or by the peepal tree. And there was a few of us around there, and he pulled out this hot poker and said, "So anyone want to be healed?" So a lot of us lined up and lay down, and he poked that thing on us, but it wasn't really that hot. But I think it was, I don't know what he was doing then, but even like with that story with Bay I talked about, whacking someone with a stick, that was passing energy.
Passing energy, okay.
Yeah, you know, so whether it was by physical touch, a look, he could look you in the eyes, and it would just like open something in your mind. And so everything was used as a vehicle to open people.
So how did you find that those people who met with Haidakhan Babaji, what they are doing right now, and they are still doing some spiritual activities, spiritual awareness, they are still teaching or just giving lesson to other seekers, aspirants also, or just they are also just lifted to this physical world, fantasy world? What do you see nowadays?
Well, I can't say I've known a few people who are still involved in that whole process, but others, I imagine, they just get on with their lives. But there's still something there. Life is somehow different. I can only imagine that. You know, my wife and I separated a few years after we'd been to Haidakhan, and I don't think she involves herself in any practice. But I know that she said one of the best thing we did as a couple was go there. And she had an experience there that really opened her up. And so you don't let that go. You know, you don't necessarily hold tight, but it's always there. So you can always surrender to that feeling when you choose. You can always hold it out, but that's painful.
Why this happening? You see that it's due to their karmic bondage, karmic karma. You told me that karma yoga, Haidakhan Baba used to do the karma yoga. They have some thirst, they have some hunger, desire, physical, worldly desire, karmic. They do have to fulfill that. So actually, they triggering with encountering with that real spiritual master. Also, they jump here and there. Why?
Dave, what? Sorry, what was that last bit?
Actually, most of the people attaching with that spiritual power, spiritual master also, they do not follow the right path. They jump here and there. Why this happening? Due to their individual karmic journey?
Well, you know, we all have our path, and it's not for me to judge right or wrong. So I couldn't say, and I have to trust that they're doing what is right for them, and I think we're all involved in doing that. And again, that's part of letting ourselves off because karma yoga is different to karma. So karma yoga is being involved in activity, but remembering who you are that's doing the activity. Whereas karma, the whole idea that there's good and bad karma from the past that lead you down different directions, that's a different thing to karma yoga. Karma yoga is really the process of involving yourself in your life and bringing the being that is you into that life. And so to the extent that people, once they've had that experience with Babaji, then go ahead and live their lives, whatever it may look like, with that core sense of putting their being into their life, then who am I to judge what it looks like? It's not it's not mine.
Okay. So its spiritual journey is a typical individual journey.
I think so. Yeah, there are. I think there are probably some similarities, but it's an individual path. It's a straight and narrow road that you need to find your own path, not be walking someone else's.
You don't think that it's a selfish motive, but if you realize, then it's our duty also to focus all the surrounding people, let them also be realized. It's not that feeling what you experience, because lots of people are still in emotion, in their worldly life, desire, sexual desire, all these also they are still, but still they are not happy.
Yeah, well, if you're not happy, then you've lost touch with who you are. And no amount of stuff that you get in the world will make up for that. It's pretty straightforward, really.
Yeah. So what is the role of enlightened person? Still there are lots of the enlightened person, no, in the world. What is their role?
Well, I think it's to help wake people up. Our school, secondary school, that's college, so that's like 13 to 18, say, that kind of age. They had a thinking, lumen accipe et imparte. Receive the light and pass it on. And I can't go much beyond that. So to the extent that we wake up, that's also the extent that we want to wake others up. And help, not to push them or prod them, although sometimes I think that might be appropriate. But to, you know what's possible, and you'd like to see people awake to at least the level that you understand. I'm getting some feedback, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. On the computer. I heard myself speak, so it's kind of odd. But yeah, I think, like you asked before about what's the purpose of a guru, I think that all of us, there's so much depth to life that we are just touching the surface. And to the extent that you wake up, that's the extent you want to help others wake up. And then that just keeps growing, I imagine. I don't think that stops. I don't think there's an end point.
So what is the purpose of this human birth?
Well, it's got to be to remember who we are. Well, it's either that or it's nothing. You know, if you look at the Richard Dawkins of the world, you know, either there is a beingness beyond body and mind, or there's not. And part of me, I've had some pretty big experiences in my body and in my mind, just my life, to convince me that that's real. But on another level, it could just still be my imagination. And so my question is, when we do actually leave the body, if we experience something, we'll know then. But until then, we can just imagine. It's like, and that's what we have to go on that faith, because there's nothing else to do with that. You know, if you're looking for a spiritual experience to prove to you that there is something else, well, there may be, there may not be, but how would you rather live? What makes living the most joyous at that point? And for me, living, being in touch with that beingness brings more joy into my life. And so I can only imagine that that's actually real. It's not something that's just in my imagination. but at the same time, maybe I'm wrong. And so I think we have to be willing to take that stance of I may be right, I may be wrong. Because where religions fall out with each other is they each have an idea of what's right and what's wrong. And then they argue about that. And who knows? And that's why I say in the book is that I've got this thing behind me. Love.
Yes.
Yeah. And if we can, rather than think about what religion is right or what belief system is right, maybe we need to think about love. What is the highest form of love, and how would that be? And can we come to some kind of agreement on that? Muslim, Hindu, Christian. We can't agree on a lot of things, but maybe we can agree on what love is and what God, Goddess, what that love is for us. And until we come to that point, then there's always going to be room for argument. And there's always going to be people that are wanting to rule the roost and have the final say. But the final say is life itself. It's not up for us to define life. Life has defined us, and we need to feel that and acknowledge that and see what that life is telling us what love is, without our thoughts being involved.
So, what do you think that enlightened persons are actively in this karma yoga, or they just enlightened? Oh, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm the pure consciousness, I'm the oneness, and they just skip from their work and just be passive. What do you think?
Well, again, I'm not there enough to. I can think about it. I don't necessarily know. I have my ideas, and but Baba used to say, "Don't let meditation become muddy water." So he says, "Let meditation be like a sparkling running brook." So a lot of people think they have to sit in silent meditation, and sometimes that really helps. My wife has recently, the last few years, done Vipassana, and that really made a big difference for her. But she's often said to me, "Well, you're just meditating 24 hours a day, so you don't need to do it." And I can never understand, and she's got it now. Like, for a while, she never had that sense of connection to the beyond. And with Vipassana, that helped her get that, and there was that constant sitting. So it's the practice of how we sit. I think it's not just necessarily the action, it's about the internal process of how you relate to the action. And Vipassana really did that for her. It opened up that being where she could connect to that, whereas before she wasn't sure if that was even possible. And getting back to that quote of Babaji where he says, "Don't let meditation become like muddy water." It's like, it's got to be clear, sparkling water. So that's where whatever you're doing, whether it's sitting quietly, repeating a mantra, you're still doing. But let it be alive in you. And I think that's what the clear, sparkling water is. Unless what you're doing is alive in you, then the spirit isn't alive in you, and you're not connected to that. And I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but in terms of what masters are doing, I think that's what they're doing. They're just being in that stream of consciousness and seeing what comes up or feeling what comes up and following their nose. Like Babaji, when he'd look at you, he'd be different. He'd look at me, it'd be just a turn of a gaze. And so he's not thinking about that. At least that's my supposition. He's not thinking about it. He's just responding to the energy that is us. You know, he used to look at my wife and have a big beaming smile on his face. And then he'd turn and look at me and he'd just go deadpan flat. And that was a part of me that used to be afraid to emote. I was very unemotional. just contain myself. Part of that. I don't know if you saw that TV series about had David Carradine in it, and he was playing the role of he was playing a spiritual warrior, and he had his little version of him was called Grasshopper, I think. And but it's always that path of being devoid of emotion. And I think that's where that part of the path fails people, because what Babaji showed me, it wasn't being devoid of emotion, it was being full of emotion, but learning how to work with the flow of the emotion. And so I think that's what masters are doing, particularly like Babaji, because they're using the emotion to wake people up. And that's where I say that the English, I'm Scottish originally, I was born in Scotland and came to New Zealand when I was 9. And I've always had a problem with the English stiff upper lip, the part where the English don't let their feelings show that much, unless they're on a football match. and that whole part of life where if we can't connect with the feeling, if we don't allow ourselves to feel whatever we're feeling, we can't actually learn the lesson from it. And if we hold feelings back, we shut our spirit down, and the spirit can't break through that. And it'll create situations in your life where that feeling gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it just something pops. And so I'm not sure if that answers your questions, but I think your question was about what are masters doing, and I think they're trying to just wake us up, and that's sometimes an emotional game. It's a very emotional game, because we're holding on to our emotions to try and live life the best we can, but often that emotion is actually stopping us from actually doing that, because the emotion holds spirit back. Well, it's not the emotion that holds spirit back, but it's our relationship to the emotion. And you can see it when people talk about anger being negative. So immediately in your mind you think, oh, that's negative, I shouldn't do that. And so you don't allow yourself to feel angry about things you actually need to feel angry about. And only then can you translate that into something that makes sense.
So what's your experience that master choose the disciple or disciple choose the master?
Again, I don't know. But I'm glad they do. I'm glad one of them does. And well, if the master is a beacon of light, sending out light all the time, and if I can see it, then we have chosen each other. If I can't see it, I haven't chosen. But the master is choosing. If you look at it the way the master is a brighter light than you, can be seen from further away. And the master is emitting that constantly and doesn't choose the master's choice is to be that light. And when we choose to see the light, a master will appear. I think it's more like that.
We see the body, like we see the body. Different master came, Paramhansa Yogananda, Ramana Maharshi, Sai Baba. Lot of the masters came, like Mahaavatar Babaji. Master also come. Different master manifest this body. What's your experience like? Babaji also manifests, no?
Mm-hmm.
In that
manifest things.
Yeah, in that particular area.
Yeah, well, this manifestation, he called himself Bole Baba, simple father. So he wasn't into show, I would say. It was about living a simple life, and he communicated through that. And things did happen. You could tell he knew exactly what you were thinking. And so he was master at that, you knew that he knew you. And there was no getting around it. And you either had to surrender to that and love it and love yourself for being seen and to know that he loved you no matter what. And so that was the miracle this time. It wasn't outward shown.
Why do they perform miracle? For us to awake, or why they perform miracle? Like lots of people are sleeping in the state, they feel master is clicking them, turning them, hitting them. Most of they have lots of experience, no?
Yeah. Well, if you're asking, say that again. Why you mean the
masters are doing miracles? No, we see that miracles, lots of miracles in their life. They are happening to be just in the accident. They recovered from that accident. Someone came, some master came, and they survived them. They were lots of spiritual aspirant are experiencing that moments.
Yeah. Well, if that happens, that is a potential doorway to open the mind. But if it doesn't happen, there's still a doorway. Like when Babaji was asked to go to court and prove that he could take ownership of the ashram in the early 70s. He was, everyone was encouraged. They took him to the court and they were expecting him to perform a miracle. And he said, no, just wait, be patient. And then one day the judge was sitting and the judge himself had an inner experience. And the judge said, oh, okay, you are him. So there was no outward miracle needed to be performed. And I think if someone can get it inside, then there's no need for an outward miracle. Some people need an outward miracle, not from, I think, if you hunger for it and think you need that to prove it to you that does exist, it's not going to happen. But if you somehow do need a miracle to connect you somehow, then that will happen.
So Babaji has already left the body, no? How do you feel? You still feel connection in deep sleep, in your dream, or some inspiration, some guidance? You are still. Would you like to share some experiences right now? Experience.
Well, he may have left a body in Haidakhan, but we don't know how many more he has. And he never left me. I never had an experience of him leaving. So I always feel that connection. So there's no loss. There's only, and it's up to me to, it's an internal sense more than, like I never felt like I needed to see him again to prove he was really there. I just didn't have a sense of him leaving. No, and you have that with your parents. So he's like the ultimate father in that way, or father and mother, because he was, he was worshipped as a divine mother as well.
How do you feel about other masters? There are lots of masters, no?
Yeah.
Do you connect with them also, or just Babaji?
I connect with Babaji was very big on saying, connect with every master. And so there's no, I guess I have a personal connection with Babaji, so that's stronger. But other people, like say Mataji, the hugging guru, I know people that have been Babaji devotees that really follow her. It's about getting wisdom from everyone. and it's not about creating a separation.
It's a oneness journey, no?
Yeah, we're either one or we're not. And if we're not, then we're nothing. And I don't think we're nothing.
So what's your next step or next idea, next vision, next work you can share with the listener, the viewers?
Well, I think where the world is at, Babaji talked about a Mahakranti, right? The great destruction or the great revolution. And I think we're in the middle of that right now. And I don't know why he says, that prediction that, 2/3 of the world's population would be gone in the 90s, because that hasn't happened. And I wonder if gurus say that to help wake people up and promote the fear to actually help people move beyond the fear. Because to the extent we're afraid, there's the extent we can't live beyond that. But then fear has a value. If you're stuck somewhere and you're afraid you'll be stuck there forever, then the fear can help you move out. So fear, like anger, has a value. So it's not a negative emotion. It's something that reminds you there's something happening. And I think that's something that people don't see with what's happening in the world, with the control through the COVID dilemma, the way they want to, the WEF and the UN want to really pin the world down and control us, to create the whole transhuman thing where they don't believe in God, but they think we can be gods through controlling genes. That is a completely false idea. But they think they control the world and can control the world. And so our task at the moment is to bring the light to that. And so many people are so naive and gullible that they believe everything about the virus and things like that. I mean, it's great that in Uttar Pradesh they allowed ivermectin and things like that in there, because that's where Babaji was up in Haidakhan, which is right next door to Uttar Pradesh. And I think it was all Uttar Pradesh at the beginning, wasn't it? And then they split up into two. Is that what happened with that part of the country?
In India?
You don't know. In India, yeah, there was Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh. Weren't they one?
I have no idea about that.
Okay, yeah. And so anyway, just up there is where so we were buying ivermectin into New Zealand from India, getting through customs, and then they finally stopped us. And but so it's fascinating for me that little bit of light about things being available over there that aren't available here. They're trying to control everything, and also a lot of Western nations, I think, believe more in the narrative of climate change is happening, COVID is a real thing and it's really bad, and we need to do all these things to control ourselves. And what we're facing now is we're breaking out. They're trying to use fear to control us. They're trying to use our anger. They're trying to manipulate our feelings, scare us of a virus, scare us of the failing climate, and make us angry at people who don't believe that. So you have to believe Greta Thunberg. And so that whole thing is they're setting up the whole idea of divide and conquer. So they're trying to scare a big bunch of the population and also make them angry at the people that aren't scared, so that then they'll try to clamp down everybody. And so I think that's the biggest thing humanity faces at the moment, is the desire of some people to control us and to think there's no being beyond who we are. We're just this bunch of molecules, DNA that they can control, and they can play with that to create, mix us up with computers and do whatever they want to do. They don't believe in anything beyond life. And so it's our task at the moment to wake the world up to that Because if the world doesn't wake up to that, like the communists have been in China for 100 years, if the world doesn't wake up to the fact that they're trying to control us as a humanity, humanity might become very controlled for many, many years, and that won't be fun. But if that happens, we have to accept that that's the path to wake more people up. That's the way I see it. They have to surrender at a certain point that if that's happening, that's happening. But at the same time, Babaji said, be willing to fight. Be a warrior. And this is what we need to be a warrior for at the moment, is truth. As Babaji said, truth, simplicity, and love. Satya, Sarlata, Prema. And what we are being told is a bunch of lies about climate, a bunch of lies about diet, what's a good diet for humanity, a bunch of lies about COVID, all to control us. And until we can expose the truth, shine the light on the truth, humanity could be lost. And it's up to us to honor how precious this moment in our lifetimes is and do something about it.
Yeah, that's what the masters came, like Haidakhan Babaji. Lots of the master teachers about this humanity, love, this total, diverse, unity in the diversification, no? Unity, harmony. Harmony in the diversification, harmony, real, who are real oneness, spreading the love energy, truth, simplicity. So it's awesome. It's really touches our heart, no? Who are real spiritual seeker, it really touches our heart. We have come to an end this session, no? Yeah. I'd like to ask one question. We have just 5 minutes left, Darag. What is the connection? You are the science student, no? What is the connection between spirituality and this science, no? Because most of the people think that science is superior, no?
Well, the trouble with science, it only works on the 5 senses. And whatever created life is beyond all that. So science can point to it, but it can't be it. So being is where life arises from. Science can indicate that maybe something's there. Darwin's theory of evolution has been pulled apart over the last couple of decades. And but science is also open to fraud. Whereas once you tap beingness, fraudism, you can't fake that. You either experience it or you don't. Either it's real or it's not. But science has been bought. The UN, last from the UN said, we own the science. But they own the science that they want to promote. And their science promotes lies. They do not promote truth. They do not use science for truth. They use science to try to prove things that are real that they want us to believe, but they're all lies. And they suppress scientists who say otherwise. So you can buy science with money. And if you also own the media, then you can make the people believe that that's the real science. But it's really falsehood. The world is an abundant place. Humanity is abundance in its own right. There is enough of everything in the world for more and more people. And we're taught we're scarce. Resources are scarce. They're not. If you look at the fossil fuels, it never came out of fossils. It's made by the earth itself. It never came out of fossils. That was a way that they decided to create the idea of scarcity. So science can be used if it's allowed to be, but it can only point to truth. It can't be truth. Truth is beyond science. Science can only reflect something.
Wonderful. I'm very, very thankful to you, Darag. It's your vital satsang for us, for Nepali people, for whole world people, and for the seeker also, for your unexpected experiences. and satsang for us. Very, very thankful to you.
Well, Dhanyavad, Rajan. It's been a total pleasure, and I hope this helps some people. So thank you in my language. We're all gurus to each other. If we take that on, we'll learn from each other. And there's no one above anyone, no one below anyone. We're all here helping each other.
Thank you, Darag. In one last question, for Nepalese people also, we just have 1 and 2 minutes left. Who is Haidakhan Babaji?
Who he is?
Yeah, because they don't know about Haidakhan Babaji.
Who knows? Haidakhan Baba, lots of stories about him. Known in Tibet as Lama Baba. Coming back to Haidakhan, building that ashram in the 1890s, coming back in the 1920s, coming back again in the 1970s. Before that, in the 1600s, who knows who Haidakhan Baba or Haidakhan Baba really is? And some people think he's God walking the earth, but I think he's an older brother. I don't think he sees any difference between him and us, just how we realize. And that's what I think he wants for us, is to realize we are him and he is us, because we're all one. No special. He said, I am no one and I'm nothing. So I'll leave that with his.
So our duty is to realize that truth.
Our journey is to realize that truth, yeah. And to share it, because it's in the sharing that you come to experience it more. It's not something to hold for yourself. It's impossible to hold it for yourself.
Thank you, Darag, for a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Grazie in Italian.
Jai Sambhu. Jai Sambhu.
Dhanyavad.
थप भिडियोहरूको लागि हाम्रो च्यानल सब्स्क्राइब गर्नुहोस् र छेउमा रहेको बेल आइकन पनि दबाउनुहोस्।